I guess what I'd say to the team, first night, first game is,
well, guys, it's been a lot of hard work to get here.
Guys, this is what we've all been practicing the last 2.5 weeks for.
All the work's done. You've put the time in the weight room.
And now, let's go beat somebody.
Boys, you'll only get a few more of these in your life.
Let's go out and have as much fun as we can.
Opening night, there's nothing like it.
One of the things that makes football so special is that there's so few games.
Don't miss a moment.
Live in the moment.
Create those memories.
Never look back.
Believe in your teammates.
Go out, let it all loose.
Play every play
Like it's your last play.
Play between the whistles.
Leave it all on the field.
And do your best.
It's a new season.
Everybody's 0-0.
Seniors, this is your last first game you're ever going to play in.
This is your football team.
You're there for yourself, but you're there for that person next to you.
And let's dominate in everything we do.
We're gonna have some fun tonight. There are guys that are sitting up in the stands that would probably chop off a couple of their digits to come play in this game.
Friday night, it's here.
Are you ready? It's high school football season, and it's time.
Let's go.
Welcome to the News 8 Highlight Zone High School Football Preview Show.
Oh yeah, another season of high school football in the Coulee Region is here. Thank you for joining us. I'm Greg Wavernick.
And I'm Kyle Duckelbaum. That give you chills or what? We're going to help you get geared up by breaking down 5 Wisconsin conferences and schools in Minnesota. Plenty of expert analysis on the way as well.
Well, let's get right to it. Starting with the team that just continues to make runs deep into the postseason, Logan. The Rangers return one of the most electrifying players in the state in Eric Elmore. Last year as a junior, he was an AP first-team All-State selection as an all-purpose player. Much of his big plays came off kick and punt returns, but he's just as dangerous on offense, whether he's lined up as a receiver or out of the backfield.
He's our leader. We rub all of our offense by him. We use him as a decoy, and then when he gets the ball, you never know what's going to happen. He can cut across the field. He can go out in the middle.
Those guys like him that have that unbelievable speed, but then they can change direction, and it's not like they lose anything. Those guys are amazing. They're just game changers, you know. When things aren't blocked correctly, they can still score a touchdown, and you got to love guys like that.
So just how fast is Elmore? We put a GoPro camera on him at practice. Take a look at this.
Hi, I'm Eric Elmore, and I go to Logan High School, and I'm a receiver and free safety for the Logan football team. Punt return and kick return. It's mainly about just seeing the hole, going right through, doing your part, let them do their part. First off, I like to follow my blocker, like the guy next to me, Kyle Backlars. He's usually with me. I like to follow him, and then we go up there, and I see the hole, and then right when I see that hole, I hit it. The defenders, they're going to be quick too. Some are going to be quick. So you got to know what you're doing before they do it. That's why you got to be quicker than them.
Honestly, do you think someone can tackle me in kick return? No.
We work really hard on, you have to beat one defender. If you have one defender left, you have to know a move to do it. So I just put that through my head. If I got one defender, either juke or stiff arm them, do something, I've got to score. It's just awesome being on those special teams with these people, with like my friends and my team out there. So I love it.
Elmore had a handful of returns brought back due to penalties last season. Head coach Casey Noble says clean blocking is a major point of emphasis at camp.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, on the south side of town, Central has its own do-it-all player. His name is Jared Ambrose. He plays running back, defensive back. He kicks, he punts, he even gets a few reps under center. You'd think he spent years perfecting everything. But not the case. The Red Raiders senior started playing high school football for the first time last season.
Some of the seniors last year I was like good friends with, like Mitchell. He like influenced me to come out. He's like, might as well do it, gets tougher and stuff like that. So I came out.
He's very talented kid. You know, a nice size too. I'd classify more as an athlete than just one position.
I was really excited when he said he was going to join because I knew that he's a great athlete and he's going to be a great key piece to our offense. And now running it and realizing that he's going to be there every Friday night, it's going to be great.
Get some on three! 1, 2, 3! Get some!
Do not count out the defending champs Holman. The Vikings' first loss of the season came in level 3 of the playoffs, but they've got holes to fill. 8 starters return, 5 on offense and 3 on defense. But despite graduating 9 all-conference players, they like their chances.
We've been preaching, hey, you got to make your own memories this year. And if we get better every day, like we've been preaching, we get better every day, we'll be okay.
We're not as big and don't have as big as like the big-time players like we did last year. So everyone else has got to step up, have each other's backs.
We got the talent, we got the speed, we got the strength. You know, it's just everyone needs to step up and do their job.
Coming up, there's a new member of the MVC. See reaction from around the league.
Arcadia has pretty much everyone coming back that I know of, so they'll be the favorites for sure.
The Raiders stand out in the Coulee. We'll show you why as we make stops at 30 schools on both sides of the Mississippi River.
Honoring my dad, I think, feels kind of good too, I guess. Letting him know I miss him.
How football is more than a sport for the East Caledonia Warriors, it's a coping mechanism.
And we tell you why DeSoto will play with a little extra motivation this year. All that and more on the News 8 Highlight Zone High School Football Preview Show.
My reactions were very, very disappointing.
We've talked about, what are your alternatives?
That was last October after the WIAA Board of Control votes to move West Salem into the MVC for football only. This is a story we've been following for the last couple years. Administrators could A, accept the conference move, B, take a 4-year postseason ban, or C, become an independent. They decided to go with A. They're joining the MVC. That starts this season, Greg.
And Kyle, West Salem's attitude about its new conference has changed. The team now says they're excited about what lies ahead.
Set, go! Whoa, there you go. Nick, roll the other way. There it is.
At West Salem, a new season, new head coach, and new conference.
It's an opportunity for us. That's how we look at it. We're always going to have a competitor on the field, and now it's a different school, sometimes some bigger schools to compete against. But we really need to prepare the same way.
Players see the positives too.
I really want to be in the MVC. I thought it could mean some good things.
We can't change anything, so seeing as they're better schools in the MVC that we can play and get more competition, that helps us get ready for the postseason.
But what about the rest of the league? How do other teams feel about their new conference rival?
It's nice now that we don't have to find a non-conference game in the middle of the season. They're a competitive team.
I'm excited. I think they're a great fit for our league, and I think they're going to continue to have success as long as making our league even better.
Well, you're bringing a team that's been to the state title game, 3 times in the last 15 years, so they're going to be competitive day one.
We expect them to be a very good fit in our conference, and once they get used to the regimen and week in and week out in the MVC, I think they're going to be a very good football program in our conference.
One potential downside, an 8-team league could hurt teams on the edge of qualifying for the postseason.
To get in the playoffs, you got to win 4 games. There's no 500 record in conference anymore with an odd number of conference games.
But overall,
looking forward to having them in our league.
And that feeling is now mutual. West Salem's first MVC game, September 5th, at home against Tomah.
That's going to be a fun one. Thanks, Greg. Aquinas is coming off a tough season. They returned 3 starters on defense, 4 on offense, and have to replace standout running back Robert Wettstein. Not to mention, the Blue Golds only have 33 out for the team, down from 46 a year ago. But it's much easier handling all this your second time around. Year 2 for head coach Tom Lee, who of course took over for Dan Coughlin.
We were talking just as a staff how much further along we feel than we did 365 days ago.
Coach Lee's really energetic, and practice is fun with him because he's always running around.
For sure we're more efficient out here on the field, and that kind of helps keep practice moving in tempo and that kind of stuff.
Pound the rock is the motto at Onalaska. While that's still important, head coach Tom Yashinsky wants to add a new dimension. That's why they're running a new offense. It's faster and maybe just what the Hilltoppers need to take conference.
We're trying to play faster. We're trying to go up tempo a little bit and just get the guys to the line quicker and get them firing off.
With the new offense and everything, I think it's just no one's going to expect anything from us, and so we just have to go out and prove them wrong.
With our new offense, I think that quick pace is going to help us contend up there in the conference.
The Tomah Timberwolves are no strangers to success in the MVC. They've made the playoffs 6 of the last 7 seasons. The year they missed, last year. Now the Timberwolves are hungrier than ever. and it's giving Coach Brad Pluger's team motivation to start a new streak.
It would mean everything. That's what kind of this season is right now. We're kind of shooting for the playoffs.
It'd mean a lot to me, the whole team, also our town. I thought our senior leadership has been outstanding, and they understand, that it wasn't very fun last year not making the playoffs.
Sparta looking for a turnaround season. Look for a bigger role for running back Matt Hampel. He'll line up in the backfield for the second straight season after leading the Spartans in rushing in 2013.
It's definitely different because you have to have a bigger role. Like we had people we looked up to last year, now Werby and those guys.
Having the confidence and the calmness and not having so many butterflies, we need those leaders.
Here is a look at last year's MVC standings. The Vikings cruise to an undefeated mark. That's their first conference title since 2003. Logan and Central right on their heels, followed by Onalaska, Toma, Sparta, and Aquinas.
Once again, we're excited to welcome one of, if not the authoritative voice when it comes to high school football in Wisconsin, with Sports.net's Travis Wilson.
He'll join us throughout the show to break down all 5 Wisconsin conferences in our area. Here's his take on the MVC.
The level of play in the Mississippi Valley Conference has continued to increase, and last year was a true showcase for the potential and talent of the league's teams. Holmen, La Crosse Logan, and La Crosse Central combined for 6 postseason victories, and the rest of the state took notice. I spoke to a Madison area coach recently whose teams have gone up against many of the MVC teams in the playoffs. He spoke very highly of the improvement in the league, especially the physicality. Holmen was an unbeaten league champ in 2013 and took Oshkosh North to overtime before falling in level 3. A large senior group that included a number of two-way standouts and many of the top offensive performers has graduated, but the cupboard is far from bare for head coach Steve King. Charlie Soroskis is one of the top two-way players in the entire state, excelling at offensive line and linebacker. Running back, defensive back Chris Magnuson returns as well as a standout on both offense and defense. The program was outstanding at all levels last season as the varsity, JV, and freshman teams combined to go 26-2-1. La Crosse Logan has taken significant steps forward in recent seasons under head coach Casey Noble, culminating in a Division III state semifinal run last year, where they went down to eventual champ Monona Grove. All-conference running back Raekwon Tillman and two-way standout Calvin Wright have graduated, but the Rangers return one of the most electric and explosive playmakers in the entire state. Senior receiver Eric Elmore was a first-team all-conference selection last year and also added 300 yards on the ground with 5 touchdowns in the kick return game, with several more called back due to penalties. La Crosse Central has won 16 games over the past 2 seasons, but with just 6 letter winners and 3 starters returning, head coach Tony Service's group will have their work cut out for them to compete in 2014. Onalaska head coach Tom Yashinsky is one of a number of outstanding young coaches in the conference and has led the Hilltoppers to 3 straight postseason appearances. The backfield will be a strength in 2014, where Alex Gums returns after missing a number of games due to injury last year, and Ryan Williams is a second-year starting quarterback. One of the big stories in the offseason centered around the at times contentious process which moved West Salem from the Coulee Conference into the Mississippi Valley for football. The changes kept coming in the offseason as longtime head coach Wayne Sackett resigned in late July. Justin Yeen was hired as the team transitions into the MVC.
Coming up, there he is, the state title winner, former Aquinas head coach Dan Coughlin, back for another season with us. We'll sit down with him next.
Ground and pound, boys, so it's going to be an interesting game. We got to win this game. Got to win every game, but you got to win this game. Just like my wife and most things, they don't listen to me. So I think there's a good chance that these two teams could see each other in late October, early November. But for right now, this is going to be a huge game. If I was a betting man, I would have to think that if I were West Salem, I'd be prepared to enter the MVC.
Seems like just yesterday we were shooting the music highlights on high school football preview.
Goes by in a hurry. It does go by in a hurry.
It does go by in a hurry. Welcome back, Coach.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
We can call you a TV veteran now as opposed to a coaching veteran. How's that?
It's great. This is great fun.
We just went over all the MVC teams. We saw Holmen and Central, both really successful seasons last year, but both losing huge senior classes. I'm sure you've had a couple cases where you're kind of in that situation.
It's the lot of a high school football coach. You know, you can't go out and find guys. You know, you're going to have to use what you've got, and you never know what's going to happen. I've had underclassmen that were really inspired by what the upperclassmen had done, but then I've also had underclassmen who kind of rode the coattails of the upperclassmen, and when it was time for them to step up, they didn't do as well as maybe I'd hoped they were going to do. So you just never know.
West Salem in the MVC this year after all the times we've talked about it.
Yes, sir.
Can they compete this year?
Sure.
If not, who's got the MVC?
Yeah, they can. There's no doubt. I mean, we played them in the past. They have an excellent program up there. They have an excellent coaching staff. I think the MVC is going to be pretty wide open this year anyway, so I think this is a great year to step in.
One of the weird things about West Salem joining the MVC is now there are 8 teams in the MVC, 6 teams in the Coulee, even teams in both leagues. Does that hurt you because you can no longer finish 500 in conference, as Tom Yashinsky just mentioned in that piece? It kind of hurts the number of playoff qualifiers, right?
It will for sure limit it. I mean, we used to say, if we could win 4 games, I mean, we were going to be in, but that's not necessarily going to guarantee anything now. So, but that's what you got to do. Those are the rules. You got to win all your games. You're going to get into the playoffs. It's a piece of cake.
This offseason, WIA implementing new acclimatization rules. A lot of it dealing with preseason work. You got to have a 30-minute recovery period after 2 hours of practice. Full equipment now doesn't come out till day 6. There's short days and long days in terms of how many practices you can have. What are your thoughts on all those?
I'm probably one of the few probably that's in favor of this. Because of the limited numbers that I had, I just couldn't afford to lose kids in practice. And so a lot of the things actually that they're doing now, we actually did those things. And I don't think it harmed my program at all. My youngest son played for the legendary John Gallardi up at St. John's, and they never tackled. And I think football needs to change. I mean, the NFL is changing. And I really give credit to the Wisconsin High School Football Coaches Association for being proactive rather than reactive to this.
Ahead of the curve, Coach. Thank you very much. This is just the beginning of the whole season. Catching up with Coach Coughlin airs Thursdays at 6 o'clock right here on News 8.
Excited to have you back again. One more
Thank
season,
you.
Coach.
Thank you very much.
Well, Coulee coaches say there is one team to beat in the conference this year. That's next on the News 8 Highlight Zone High School Football Preview Show. Arcadia's season got off on the right foot, so to speak, and it continued all year. Holmen wasn't the only local team to put up a perfect mark in the regular season. As we turn our attention to the Coulee Conference, so too did Arcadia.
The Raiders didn't lose until level 2 of the playoffs, and a couple local coaches told us they're the team to beat again. With all the experience they returned, like all conference players Lee Pronshinsky, John Quinn, and Rob Hesley, it's easy to understand why. They have a target on their back. They embrace it.
Every team you play is going to go out there and play their Super Bowl against you and just want to beat you.
It's a good feeling, but it's also puts some pressure on you to, you got to do your best, practice your best, play your best.
It definitely puts a lot of pressure on our team, but with that pressure comes hopefully we rise to the occasion.
And check out the new turf field for them too. They're the first Wisconsin team in the Coulee region to get one.
Team very excited about that. Yeah. Westby finished second in the Coulee last season, led by all-conference running back Travis Hoffsleen. He returns, but who's going to block for him? He ran behind 3 senior all-conference linemen last year. Only 1 offensive lineman returns.
The challenge is for those guys to really, work hard, and they've been working hard in the summer and in the off-season to step up and fill those shoes.
Got to give a lot of credit to my offensive line last year, and I know the line this year will do just as good.
It's a big, question mark we have, but hopefully our guys are up for the challenge.
They got experience going against all the seniors last year, so they know what they're doing.
He's humble. Replacing a quarterback is one thing. Replacing a 3-year starter at quarterback who had over 30 touchdowns is another. The Black River Falls Tigers have the daunting task of having to replace Ethan Young. They haven't had to worry about grooming a new quarterback since 2010. Now, Jack Rue moves under center. The former wide receiver says it's a tall order.
They're big shoes to fill, that's definite. But yeah, he's worked with me throughout the summer, watched some film, and hopefully I can try to do as well as he did. That's going to be a tough accomplishment, but we're working towards it.
Jack brings some nice intangibles to the game, his leadership, He's very vocal. He likes physicality, and he's a very good athlete. So I'm very excited to see how Jack develops at our quarterback position this season.
All-conference wide receiver Matt LaFonge telling us he might get some snaps under center this year as well. Well, what's the best type of motivation? How about losing 29-28 in the playoffs to your conference rival BRF? GET opens the new season with that on their minds. Even though only 2 starters returned from last year's team, it's a loss the Redhawks cannot forget.
We're really motivated from that. You know, that was really tough coming out of, but I think we're making a big comeback from that.
It was hard to take in last season after the loss to Black River, but I mean, it really motivates us for this year. When we get to the playoffs this year, I think it's going to be more motivation from what happened last year.
And Luther has a whole lot of seniors coming back, 16 to be exact.
But those won't be the only players familiar with head coach Jason Hagedorn. His son Nick is on the team. The junior is going to start at center this season with his dad watching from the sidelines.
It should be interesting. I try to wear the coach's hat here and the dad hat at home, but sometimes they kind of cross paths.
I know I'll have someone to turn to if I have any questions, and I can turn to him not only as my coach, but as my dad too.
We always know which one's going to get picked on, so yeah, when the bad snaps, he doesn't look for me to handle the ball, it's looking at the center right away.
That's pretty funny. Put yourself in Viroqua's shoes just a few weeks ago. No head coach, Rob Heller stepped down right before camp started, and maybe some uncertainty. One player said only 15 showed up for a summer camp. But fast forward, and the Blackhawks say they're ready to soar once more. Longtime assistant Bill Hanna takes the reins.
We want to be respected by the teams that we play, and I think a lot of people discredit us and think that maybe we're not going to have that, but these kids I believe in them, and the coaching staff believes in them, and I think we're going to surprise some teams.
Everybody else in the conference looks at Viroqua and they're just like, oh, there's an easy victory, but if we can cause a couple upsets, maybe get a couple wins, make the playoffs, that'd be good.
Arcadia won the Coulee last year by 2 games over Westby and GET. West Salem and BRF both went .500 to qualify for the postseason. Out of SwissSports.net's Travis Wilson. See the Coulee playing out this year.
The Coulee Conference undergoes more changes in 2014, as despite objections from the league schools, the WIAA moved West Salem out of the conference and into the MVC. With just 6 teams in the conference this year, the teams will play mandated non-conference crossover games against teams from the Southwest Wisconsin Conference in weeks 3 and 4. Arcadia won an outright Coulee Conference title in 2013 and entered this year as the favorite, although there will be plenty of competition at the top spot in the standings. Head coach Derek Updike has a veteran group that includes 5 returning starters on offense and 7 on defense. Leading the way is a talented backfield featuring junior quarterback Rob Holsley and 1,000-yard rusher Lee Prunchinski. Depth could also come from last year's JV and freshman teams, which won a combined 13-0. Westby is one of a number of teams in the lacrosse area to welcome in a new coach in 2014 as Andy Hulse takes over for Dan Nelson. Hulse can turn to one of the area's top running backs in junior Travis Hoffslane, who went for more than 1,700 yards and 23 touchdowns last season. Gay Electric Trempealeau has one of the longest active playoff streaks in the state with 12 consecutive postseason appearances, although the Redhawks are searching for the first playoff victory since 2009. Last year's 5 losses came by a total of just 28 points, but the team does lose all-conference running back Eric Van Fleet and most of last year's offensive production. Black River Falls has featured some explosive offenses over the past few years and should be a talented group once again, although they head into 2014 without now graduated quarterback Ethan Young, who threw for 32 touchdowns last season. There's still plenty of talent at the skill positions, including 1,000-yard rusher Ryan Millis and senior wide receiver Matt LaFonge, who hauled in 16 touchdown receptions a year ago. Viroqua is on its 3rd head coach in as many seasons, as Rob Heller abruptly resigned in late July, putting the program and new head coach Bill Hanna in a tough spot heading into 2014.
Still 3 more Wisconsin conferences and schools in Minnesota coming your way. Plus, a somber start to practice for one area high school. We'll take you there next.
You're watching the News 8 Highlight Zone High School Football Preview Show.
That was November 1st of last season. Caledonia coming up just short in the section championship. Their run of 3 straight state titles coming to an end. 13-10, the final in overtime of that one. The loss snapping a 36-game winning streak.
And sent the Warriors back to Caledonia hungrier than ever. Just take a look at the motto on the back of their shirts this year. 14 returning starters, all hoping to graduate after leaving their mark back on top.
I think any kid that puts pads on, I mean, that's their ultimate goal. What I'm very proud about our kids and our coaching staff is the work they put in the offseason to prepare themselves to have that opportunity.
If you work hard enough, if you do the right things, you should. I mean, make it to state. Really making it to state is the goal you really want to get, and then obviously if you get that far, you might as well get the state chip.
Might as well. More on what's driving the Warriors later in the show.
Most teams are lucky to have a starting quarterback with a couple of years of action under center. La Crescent's Levi Mossman will have 4. He saw time as a freshman and started his sophomore, junior, and now senior years. That kind of experience can definitely rub off on the players around him.
It's a lot of confidence. He's a lot of confidence. No, the team has confidence in him. To keep him healthy, and he'll definitely help lead this team.
He did a nice job last year with his decision making. He has a very good arm. He can run the ball a little bit, so he's got a little bit of everything.
We just got a lot of like we're good together. Like we've been together for the last 4 years. It's just fun, exciting. It's what I look forward to all fall.
Winona returns very few starters this season. Maybe the biggest loss, talented running back Vincent Pham. The Winhawks are going to miss his production, but Matt Clark, who shared the backfield with Pham last year, steps in.
I have something to live up to, that's for sure. But no, it was nice learning from him and watching them, and Eric Berth and Travion before him. And I've had quite the mentors lately, so it'll be interesting to see what we can do.
In case we miss a block, it's nice to know that he'll be able to cut past it, or he'll be able to use his skills to kind of fix our mistake.
The Houston Hurricanes are going through a sea of change this offseason. They saw a senior class of 17 graduate, and they have a first-year head coach. The team also hands the torch to a new quarterback, Hunter Lashinsky.
A lot on your shoulders. You just gotta keep it cool, and I mean, just do what you gotta do.
Hunter Lashinsky is very calm, cool, and collective. He leads by example. He's never going to get down on the players, and that's very important with the young team that we have. Always staying positive and taking those strides forward.
I've waited, my whole varsity career. I've waited for this moment, and it's finally here.
Back to Wisconsin. The Rigen Valley is home to one of the most consistent programs in the state, DeSoto. News 8's Kyle Deckelbaum has more on their season.
The Pirates look to make the playoffs for a 19th straight season. But there will be one big piece missing. John Cena, the longtime assistant coach and former player, passed away in May after battling brain cancer. Stop by DeSoto practice, and you don't have to look hard to see it.
He was a great guy. Great friend. Great coach. Great everything. I don't even know how to describe it. He's just the best.
John Cena, and the Pirates are literally wearing their emotions on their sleeves.
It's weird down here without him down here, but can never replace him.
Cena was a standout in football. He played quarterback. He also helped DeSoto make 3 WIAA state appearances in baseball. And he continued to leave his mark in this community long after his playing days as a coach.
We got to say our goodbyes and thank yous and tell stories up until the very end. So it was a rough deal, but at the same time, we got closure.
John Cena was 28.
The kids, they've been pretty resilient through the whole thing, and I think they'll play a little extra for him.
Wick had a special relationship with Cena. He was a senior in Wick's first season as head coach.
Thank you, Kyle. At North Crawford, Brandon Bowmeister is back. In his junior year, he led the conference in both rushing yards and touchdowns. His 2,000-plus yards was good for 10th in the entire state, but he won't take full credit.
The line, clearly, they knew what they were doing. They got the job done very well. And I just followed my blockers, and they led me to the end zone.
We can feed off him and stuff, and and it's always nice to have him back there. He gives his best, and he gives his best effort. So, I mean, it'll be nice to have him back there again.
Here's the Rigen Valley standings. Numbers are up at Wazeeka Steuben. You might remember our story on 2 girls stepping in to save the season last year. Their new head coach tells us they have 22 players out this season. They're not the only Rigen Valley school that's having a better year with numbers. With more, here's Travis Wilson.
The Rigen Valley Conference has more returning talent than most leagues in the state, which should set us up for a very competitive and entertaining conference title race. Ithaca will be one of the most experienced teams in the state, and the scary part is the Bulldogs will still be a relatively young team, led by a strong junior class. Many teams in Division 7 don't even have 19 players on the roster, but that's how many starting spots head coach Chad Clary has returning in 2014. Many of those players start both ways, of course, but the team does still have an impressive 25 letter winners back at a school of just 104 students. North Crawford will be one of the least experienced teams in the conference in 2014, but head coach Brandon Munson can turn to the league's best player once again. Brandon Baumeister rushed for 2,024 yards and 27 touchdowns last year, averaging 9.5 yards per carry. Kickapoo Lafarge missed the playoffs last year, but returned a solid group of skill position players. Back are first-team all-conference receiver Carver Phillips, quarterback Logan Kaufman, and leading rusher Ben Jacobs, although the team will be less experienced at the offensive line. DeSoto has been one of the top teams in the conference for a number of years, but returns just 3 starters on both sides of the ball. Go on our first-team all-conference selections at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and the league's offensive lineman of the year. Head coach Ev Wick enters his 11th season at the school with a 91-31 career record, and you can bet that he will have his team performing well as the season progresses. In some good news, Seneca is back for a full varsity schedule in 2014 after the team was forced to cancel its 2013 schedule due to low numbers. With just 18 players in the program, according to head coach Justin Goodrich, there is still a slim margin for error. The team is the smallest school in the state to sponsor a football team, as they have an enrollment number for 2014 of just 73 students.
Brothers, twins, and a couple teams out for revenge. Those previews up next.
And still to come, we know football means a lot to our communities. It means even more for this player and coach. Welcome back to the News 8 Highlight Zone, high school football preview show.
Maybe the toughest part of football, the injuries. But Bangor found a silver lining in a big one from a year ago. Last year, cornerback Seth Zabel tore his labrum. He was out for the year. They brought up a sophomore from JV, Kellen Kravick. Turns out he could really play. Now this year they'll play together.
Kellen, I mean, he was a sophomore last year, and he had to step in because I was injured. So I mean, he's got more experience now, just coming in as a junior.
Last year he was like, you know what, just make your plays. I know you can. I know you got the smarts. And then he just said nothing deep. And then this year he's like, man, I just can't wait to have you on that other side. And he says we're going to be picking off balls and making tackles.
Co-conference champ New Lisbon is coming off a strong season, making it all the way to level 3 of the playoffs. Even though they lost the conference player of the year at quarterback, the entire line that protected him is back. In fact, this is the 3rd straight season the Rockets have the same starting offensive line. Talk about chemistry.
You hardly even have to talk. You kind of give each other a nudge or say one word and the guy knows what you're doing.
We can tell each other, you know, our criticisms, and you know, we get it, and you know, we learn real fast, we pick up real fast.
Even the guys that are now starting in the backfield now have a lot of respect and a lot of confidence in us, and that's a lot to take in, and it's really special.
Big turnover at Necedah. Get it? They have to replace their entire coaching staff. With that can come some growing pains, but they do return Matt Brown. The senior does it all. He plays quarterback. He even plays kicker.
Very talented, you know. He's going to be leading our offense, of course. Very good at a lot of the things he does. And so, yeah, we hope that he leads us well.
We got a whole new offense. I mean, I don't know how it's going to go yet, you know. So we'll see.
He's really athletic, and he makes plays happen all the time.
Defending a conference championship is always difficult, especially when you lose a bunch of key players. That's the role Brookwood holds this season. But the Falcons were so good last season, they blew teams out. Younger players got time on the field, and they hope that experience helps them repeat.
You get that experience for the next year. You know you're going to lose those seniors, so you're trying to get those guys in for experience for the following year, and that's what we got to do last year.
The guys who got to come in from those big leads, the second team, they're back this year, so that's always good to know that they have the experience that they had last year.
Only 4 seniors return for Hillsborough. One of them is in a battle for the job under center. Senior Matt Steckel is battling junior Joe Helgerson. They both had their eyes set on this since they first stepped onto a football field. Now, in a new offense geared towards passing, they can help one another succeed.
He's pushing me to the limit.
It's a really good challenge. We both are good at the position and pushing ourselves to make the reads, make the plays.
I'm actually fairly comfortable with both of them at this point. It's been pretty exciting to watch because they've both really come a long ways in the last year.
It's a little challenge because I'm going up against a senior. It's always pushing me really hard, so see how it turns out.
New Lisbon and Brookwood sharing the Scenic Bluffs Conference title in 2013 with identical 6-1 records. Who's the team to beat in 2014? Here's Travis Wilson.
It was a bit of an odd year in the Scenic Bluffs Conference in 2013 for a number of reasons. Brookwood and New Lisbon shared the conference title, which for many years had been dominated by Bangor and Necedah. Only 3 of the 8 teams in the conference finished with winning league records, but both Hillsborough and Bangor qualified for the postseason after finishing 3-4 in conference play. Bangor wasn't a factor in the conference race for the first time in quite a while, but don't expect the team to be down too long. Veteran head coach Rick Muhlenberg welcomes back 17 letter winners, including 5 starters on both sides of the ball. First-team all-conference running back Andrew Piskey rushed for more than 900 yards in just 8 games last season. New Lisbon is in a position you don't too often see at the high school level, as head coach Brad Beaver returns all 5 starters on the offensive line, which is usually a good sign. However, virtually all of the skill position players have graduated, including quarterback Colin Peterson, who went over 1,000 yards both rushing and passing last year and accounted for 35 touchdowns. Returning linebackers Nick Fleming and Justin Giebel accounted for more than 280 tackles between them and will once again lead the defense. Brookwood hadn't made the playoffs since 2007, but last year not only ended that streak, they won a share of the conference title. Now the challenge is to continue the momentum as the team loses 9 of the 10 first or second team all-conference selections from last season. They do get Bangor, New Lisbon, and Necedah at home this season, however. Speaking of Necedah, they kept their playoff streak alive last year, qualifying for 11th straight postseason appearance. Head coach Eric Mock stepped down in the offseason, however, as the school hired Jim Beaver as his replacement. Versatile senior Matt Brown may be the best player in the conference after leading the team in rushing and receiving last year, as well as receiving first-team all-conference recognition as a defensive back, kicker, and punter. Hillsborough has the longest postseason streak in the conference at 12 consecutive years, but the Tigers could find it a challenge to continue that streak as they lose most of their offensive production from last season. Waniwak Center is one of the few teams in the state to never qualify for the WIAA playoffs, but they'll give it a shot this season behind the return of 9 starters on both sides of the ball.
Cochrane Fountain City can tell you regular season success doesn't necessarily guarantee postseason success.
The Pirates won their first Dairyland title since 2000 last year. They were the victims of a rare 8-seed over 1-seed upset in level 1 of the playoffs. Now it's time for a new season. 10 starters return. Those players remember what it was like to win conference. They also remember who knocked them out of the playoffs.
This year we know that Independence is the favorites in our conference, and now it's our turn to be the underdog and hopefully upset them. And we're just going to work harder and harder every day to see if we can pull that off.
We really want to beat them this year, and that's our main goal, is just beat them and then call it good and then move on to the next game.
As for Independence Gilmanton, they have multiple skill positions returning, but there's one thing that stands out on this offense. 2 of their key players are brothers. Austin and Ace Whitwam will be sharing the field for the Indies this season. Brotherly love or sibling rivalry?
We, I guess, compete over everything, whether it be in school or sports or at home, anything really. He's beat me sometimes. That's not very often. I always normally win, but I don't know, he wins half the time, I win half the time, and it just keeps us fighting. I think it's a lot of fun. I mean, when he makes good plays, then I have to cheer him on, and when I make good plays, he cheers me on, so we have a lot of fun out on the field.
That's pretty funny. Good news for Whitehall. They've got an all-conference quarterback making a return. Peyton Slobby takes the field for the Norse. It's his 2nd season under center. Last year, he helped them to a 6-1 record in conference.
It feels great. It gives you a lot of confidence to get back on the field and hopefully have a good season.
Last year Peyton did a great job for us as a sophomore, so this year we got him back as a junior, and he's looking very sharp, very crisp, picking up where he left off.
With more experience, it just helps, I believe, and hopefully it makes our team better this year.
Change may be the motto of the Blair Taylor Wildcats this season. Not only did they lose a few all-conference players, but they also returned 3 starters on offense. The biggest change? Head coach Bob Schulz is implementing a new defense. He says it'll make his Wildcats more fierce.
You can attack. It's fun. Instead of sitting there and waiting and reading, We're going to be in the attack mode. We're going to attack people.
We're really doing good adapting with it, so it's coming a lot easier for us.
It's kind of confusing when we first started it, but now everybody's getting into it a little bit, and I think it'll turn out all right.
How about this strategy for Melrose Mindoro? Make opponents see double. Sam and Matt Boone are twins. They're sophomores, both looking to play vital roles on this young Mustang squad. They both start on offense, and they both start as defensive backs on the other side of the ball. So while they work to throw other teams off, it's taking some time for their own team to figure out who's who.
It's pretty exciting. It's like you feel like you get that connection. He doesn't play a whole lot of offense though, but it's kind of nice just having someone right alongside to push you.
I still mess up their names, and I've been going to school with them since kindergarten.
Yeah, it's fun. It's actually taken me a while to get them, so I can tell the difference between them, but I think I finally got it down.
Can't blame you, Coach. CFC led a group of 5 teams that qualified for the playoffs out of the Dairyland last season. Travis Wilson gives us his favorite to win the conference this season and which of the 3 non-playoff teams can make a jump in the standings.
5 of the 8 Dairyland Conference teams made the postseason in 2013, but an upset by Independence Gilmanton over league champ Cochrane Fountain City in Level 1 was the only postseason victory by the league's teams. Independence Gilmanton is looking to parlay that postseason success into a league championship in 2014 as head coach John Zilla welcomes back one of the most experienced rosters in the conference. 15 letter winners are back, including 6 starters on offense and 5 starters on defense. Ace and Austin Whitwam are 2 of the best players in the entire conference, as both excel on offense and defense. Whitehall has become one of the most consistent programs in the Dairyland Conference, as head coach John Kleinhans has led the team to 6 straight postseason appearances. The return of versatile quarterback Peyton Slaby is certainly a good way to start the season, as he led the team not only in passing last year, but also in rushing. Cochrane Fountain City had an impressive 3-year run that included 2 trips to the Level 3 playoffs and a conference championship. Head coach Steve Liga has 6 starters back on offense and 5 on defense, but will miss 3-time All-Conference selections Kale Lazowski at quarterback and Jordan Eikamp at running back. Aliva Strum could be a dark horse candidate in 2014. They enter year 3 under head coach Chad Hansen with 8 starters back on offense and 8 on defense, as the program has 50 players out for football at a school with just 175 total students. Augusta is another team to watch in 2014 as they return 9 starters on both sides of the ball.
It's one of the greatest sports ever invented, and there's so much the kids learn out of it.
The story coming up next. You're watching the News 8 Highlight Zone High School Football Preview Show.
Football just kind of brings everyone together. It seems like everyone's out there on Fridays watching us run around, usually winning, hopefully winning.
At the beginning of the show, we showed you what coaches say to their teams right before the first game of the season. But there's so much more on their mind. Kyle?
Especially for a player in Caledonia and his coach. They face similar tragedies in life. So for Tanner Grant and Brent Schrader, football is more than a game. It's an outlet. In Caledonia, everyone is a warrior.
Drop your hips, run your arms.
This season, there's one player that embodies that idea maybe more than any other. Tanner Grant.
Doesn't matter where you play him. He can literally play from O-line to D-line to defensive back. He can play any position on the field. And I think that truly says what kind of kid he is, what kind of football player he is.
On the field and off.
What he's been through is very hard for any person to go through, let alone a 14-year-old, young man.
Just 15 months ago, Tanner's dad passed away after a 6-year battle with lung cancer.
It was hard watching him.
A game of catch used to bring Tanner and his dad together. And now he suits up in black and gold, his dad's alma mater.
Knowing he's with me all the time, and he'll be proud no matter what happens.
I think football is a great release for him, and as it is for many young kids. Say they're in cover 3.
But Schrader isn't just speaking as a coach. He knows from experience.
There's not a Friday night that goes on, I think that's part of the reason that drives me in coaching the way it does.
Schrader's dad passed away after battling cancer in 2001.
He always said that football's a sport that can turn young boys into men, and that's kind of what we're here for, is to try to make better members of society. And I think football is such a precious sport that's exactly, what we're here to do, is try to make those young boys into men.
The summer after losing his father, he joined the Warriors coaching staff.
that's what the great thing about football is that you can take a situation like that and you can do one of two things. You can shell up and turn the road and find alternatives to ease the pain, or you can channel that to something positive like Tanner's done and turn himself into a great Warrior football player, and that's what we're very excited about with him.
Tanner and Brent, Warriors at heart.
Honoring my dad feels kind of good too, I guess. Letting him know it. Miss him.
That's probably what drives me, you know, every Friday night looking up at the lights, and you know, there's something bigger out there than what we're doing here. It's always just a game, and it's all about having fun.
For the second straight season, Caledonia will dedicate one of its games to raise money to tackle cancer as part of an initiative by the Minnesota Football Coaches Association. Definitely an example of the good that comes from football.
Well, we are looking forward to all the good this season. Thanks to our hardworking crew behind the scenes working on this special and every night to bring you the most highlights. Enjoy the season, and we'll see you after the games on the News 8 Highlight Zone.
Don't dream about it. Go out and get it.